Birdhouse Dynasty Show and our roster construction series, part one, roster shares. So, we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks a little series here on roster construction to help you get your teams formulated and ready to go by the time actual games start going on in August for the preseason, as well as obviously September and the real games get rolling. So, when I'm talking about roster shares or player shares on your rosters, what I'm getting at is more of a portfolio style dynasty. So, whether you're playing in just 2 or 3 leagues, or 7 to 10 leagues, or 20 leagues, the roster shares that you own matters. So, like for instance, if you're in the middle of the first round and you have to decide, this is your rookie draft, right? And you have to decide between Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Or later in the first, you have to decide between Caleb Johnson and RJ Harvey. Or you like RJ Harvey where Quinshon Judkins is going, and if similar, right? Whatever players you have in a similar tier, you'd like to diversify them over the amount of leagues you have. So let's say you just even have 3 leagues, but you own the 106 in all of them, right? So there you would want to diversify and probably own 1 Travion Henderson, 1 Quinshon Judkins, 1 Ted McMillan. And it all does come down to your particular rosters that you have as well. Like, obviously, if you really need a running back, then you're leaning it towards Judkins or Henderson. But if you really need a wide receiver, then you're probably leaning towards Ted McMillan. So that's where I'm getting at. It can play a part of the early picks in the second round, right? We've got Matthew Golden, Trey Harris, Jaden Higgins. I'm missing someone. Luther Burden. You've got all 4 of those wide receivers. It'd be nice to actually diversify them because especially later on in drafts, you can go one of 2 routes, right? 3rd and 4th round picks especially. You can decide to pick 1 or 2 guys that you just want to have a ton of shares of, right? That way, if they hit, your dynasty portfolio explodes, right? So if you decide that, I don't know, Devin Neal is the guy that you want because you know that the Saints are going to be using him right out of the gate, or you have that feeling that Alvin Kamara is only going to make it maybe 1 more season, right? And Devin Neal's going to start taking over in the second half of the season, getting more work, and moving on to the 26th season, he's going to take over eventually. That's your gut feeling. That's your play. That's your gamble you're going to take on, like, the majority of your 3rd round picks, right? Maybe you have a feeling that Jalen Royals is going to be the guy in Kansas City while Rashee Rice is serving a suspension. And then Jalen Royals is going to do so well that he ends up being the guy, right? I mean, there is that small possibility, right? Maybe it's only 5%, maybe it's less. But if you hit on that, that is a huge explosion to your dynasty portfolio value. Now, there's another way to play it, and that would be to just simply spread it all out across all of the guys that are 3rd round values or all the guys that are 4th round values. You could make sure that you get a Jalen Royals, get a Will Howard, get your hands on, Jalen Noel, I don't know, Alakai Manor, whatever. You just spread it, make sure you spread it across all of your leagues. Now, that's kind of the way I played it last year. And it paid off for me in one league for sure because I had one share of Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving, even as a Tampa fan, I was not sold on Bucky Irving. He had a terrible combine. He didn't look like he was anything special. I figured, and I didn't even love Rashad White either, but I figured Rashad White was the one. Bucky Irving was going to be the two. Sean Tucker was actually the guy that I really liked and was hoping for more action for. And so I thought it was going to be tough for Bucky to get some work. But fortunately, in that league, I had traded for Rashad White, like straight up for Isaiah Pacheco, which neither of them really did anything. But because I had Rashad White in the 4th round, I decided to take a stab on Bucky Irving because I hadn't had any shares yet. Well, obviously that one has paid off so far. Now, this offseason, I've had to decide, do I want to keep Bucky or do I want to trade him away? And I still haven't traded him away. I'm not sure if I want to. I have Henry and McCaffrey on that team as well. And I also have Chuba Hubbard. So I'm pretty loaded there. But at the same time, obviously Henry and McCaffrey are pretty old. So that's where it comes into play. Like, what do you want to do with your rosters and then try and spread it out amongst all of your leagues so you're not too invested in one guy. Like, imagine if you had 20 leagues and in 15 of them you had Brandon Ayuk last year because you were super high on whatever. You thought that Debo was going to fall off and Ayuk was going to smash and have 1,300 yards. So you made sure that you bought Ayuk at value as much as you could possibly do. And you ended up with 15 shares is a little extreme, maybe 10 shares, let's say. Well, when that dude tore his ACL last year, that was a killer to your dynasty portfolio as a whole. Imagine if you had just 3 leagues, but you had Brandon Ayuk in all 3 of them. Okay? That would be a severe hit to your playoff chances in all 3 of your leagues. So you see what I'm saying? Whether you are a smaller multiple league dynasty player or a very large portfolio player. I mean, yeah, I'm in 20 leagues, but there's guys who are in more than I'm in, 50, 60 or more. They use this so that their chances of winning leagues doesn't get severely hindered by one single injury. So, and what is the ultimate rule in football, right? They will play. Some guys will play well, but it's guaranteed that all players are going to get injured at some point. We just don't know when. Are some players more injury prone than others? Sure, I guess. But, you know, there's been guys who have gotten hurt a bunch their careers, and then all of a sudden, boom, they don't get hurt. I can name Garrison Hurst for example. He was someone who got banged up all the time in his first 3-4 years. And then all of a sudden, his next contract, he didn't get injured. Amon Green, another player with Seattle, was getting banged up all the time. Then he signed with the Packers, and boom, he didn't get injured and was awesome. So that's what I mean. This injury-prone label, it kind of sticks with players, and it's unfortunate, but that's what the perception ends up being for them. And so you don't want to get caught up too much in this injury-prone label thing. I like making bets on injury-prone players because they're cheaper, right? And then when they're actually playing, they still play very well. So that's just one angle to look at. So what I'm going to do is bring up Dynasty Daddy here. Shout out to Jeremy. And I am going to bring it up and show you my roster shares again across 20 leagues. So what you'll see is that I've diversified pretty well. There's a few players, obviously, that I own more than others. But here we go. We'll bring it up. And so here is my roster share. Now, if you go on to Dynasty Daddy, it's totally free. You can pick Sleeper and use your Sleeper ID, and then bring up any of your leagues. Pick any of your leagues, right? And then you go to the tool over here on the left-hand side, way over here, and you go to leagues and then fantasy portfolio, and this is what it will bring up then, what we see right here. Okay, so this is my overall dynasty portfolio value. You can see the huge increase there once we were able to own a few more players in the off season, and so that's where my portfolio just shot up in value. It also increased because the rookie picks values went up also. So anyway, now down to the roster shares, and we'll start with the rookies. You can see, I mean, I'm a big DK fan, so yeah, I've got 8 shares of him out of the 20. But I've never overpaid for any DK shares. All right, DK's been a solid wide receiver too for quite a few of my championship teams. Is he anything spectacular? No, but he's a great wide receiver 3, 4, 5 to have on a team. Because yes, he didn't do well in the second half of the season, but at the first half of the season, he carried a bunch of my teams. Now you can see 2 rookies that I was really in on. So I went the other way this year, and I kind of bought in to a couple of guys that I like the risk to explode in value. You can see it shows the players' values on Keep Trade Cut here. Bashul Tutin at around 3,000. Rashard Smith at 1,900. Who else do I have down here? Those are my main 2. I know that. Here, I'll slide it down. Will Howard, I've got 5 shares of. Taj Brooks, 5 shares of. So you can see I'm taking a gamble on Taj Brooks in a few leagues. Those were mostly free, picking him up as an undrafted free agent. You can see I got 4 shares of Ashton Genty. So even with having a lot of good, solid teams in my portfolio, I was still able to land Ashton Genty in a few leagues. One league I traded basically Saquon Barkley straight up for Genty. Another league, 2 of the leagues I tanked hard and was awarded with the 101. And so you can see, even though I have good teams, I was still able to land the top prospect in the draft a good amount. I mean, that's 20% roster share across my leagues. Jackson Dart there, 4 leagues. Kyle Williams, 4 leagues. Devin Neal there, 4 leagues. Jarquez Hunter, a few of those were pickups after the draft. Then Hunter started steaming up the boards a little, and I had to grab him in the 4th round. Let's see here. Travis Hunter, 3 shares. Quinshon Judkins, 3 shares. Caleb Johnson, 3 shares. So you can see I diversified there in the 1st round. I also grabbed 4 shares of Jackson Dart. Now, a couple of those Dart shares I was able to get in the 2nd round, which was insane to me. But, you know, if your league's going to let you grab them late, then your league's going to let you get them late. Let me see if there's anybody else I have at least 3 shares of. There's Trey Harris, Cam Scattaboo, 3 shares. So even with getting 8 shares of Bashul Tutin, I was still able to grab 3 shares of Scattaboo and diversify a little. Najee Harris down to 3 shares. Najee is a guy who I did have like around 6 shares of at one point. Woody Marks, 3 shares. Arende Gadsden, 3 shares. JCM with Washington, 3 shares. Rocket Sanders, 3 shares. There we go. And then we get down to 2 shares. I don't want to, go over when it's that low. But you can see here now, this allows me, when one of my favorite players, right? So I'm in on Bashul Tootin. I think he's got a great opportunity. I watched what Bucky Irving did in Tampa last year, and that's basically what Liam Cohen drafted him to become. So I'm in on that situation. And I didn't overpay for him. One league I had to pay the 207 for him, and I think one or two leagues I paid the 208. But otherwise, I paid no earlier than the 209 for Bashul Tootin. I wasn't jumping up and grabbing him in the early second round and overpaying for Bashul Tootin. That's where I grabbed my shares. Like I said, I got a couple Jackson Darts early second. I've got 3 Trey Harris shares. I've got a couple Luther Burden shares. So if I had an early second round pick or was able to trade up into the early second, I wasn't doing that to go grab Bashul Tootin. Bashul Tootin was just somebody who I saw as a late second round. I liked the value. And on some teams, I had an overabundance of picks. So if I had multiple third or fourth rounders, I was able to package them all up together rather than taking a dart throw on some backup running back like Brashard Smith, who I like, but rather than having even more Brashard Smiths or more Taj Brooks or more Kyle Monungais, I wanted to get up a tier and into a more, not necessarily elite player, but somebody who has a better chance of hitting. And so I was able to jump up into the back end of the second round a lot, and it wasn't that difficult it didn't take that much of a hit on me, because if you have too many third, fourth rounders, like, what are we doing here? I mean, it's the bottom of your roster. You want to maintain some ability to churn and burn during the regular season, like the bottom 2 or 3 roster spots on your teams. And I will reiterate this continually through this roster construction series. This is only part 1, but you're going to hear it a lot. Leave 2 or 3 spots on the bottom of your roster to be able to churn and burn. Don't be so tight on the bottom of your roster to where you're like, no, I cannot trade this guy. I cannot cut him. Dude, you know how many Javon Bakers I had last year? I drafted Javon Baker. I had at least 5 or 6 shares of. And by mid-season, I probably had cut him once or twice. Okay? Does that sound stupid? Well, look at where Javon Baker is now. They went out and traded for Stephon Diggs, and they drafted Kyle Williams. So obviously, they're not in on Javon Baker or Jalen Polk, for that matter, anymore. Now, could they turn it around and hit? Sure. But I'm not worried if they do. I mean, some of my leagues, I could probably still pick up Javon Baker. Point being that you need to have a couple of spots to be able to pick up dudes during the season. There's a lot of guys that come out of nowhere, and you want to be able to have a shot at them, especially in best ball. But, you know, even in lineup leagues, there's running backs that come out of nowhere, and you want to be able to scoop them up for a spot start. Think about Sincere McCormick last year, right? I started Sincere McCormick in a couple of leagues last season. What about backup quarterbacks? Your top quarterback goes down, and he doesn't have a top flight backup that was rostered already. I use it a lot, but the Easton Stick example from 2 years ago, right? Justin Herbert went down, Easton Stick comes in, and boom, he's putting up 10, 15, 20 points a week, and that was enough to start in a super flex league to where I was comfortable enough, because the rest of my team was very solid, that I was somehow able to ride that. I think I was the 6th seed to a championship. Now, it was the first year in the league, so the teams are a lot more even in the first year of the league, but that's what happened. Easton Stick, boom, championship, right? No, the point is that I was able to pick up the quarterbacks, and I had room for them, because the bottom end of my roster, I was not so, like, dead set on, I got to keep this guy. All right. So you want to keep that bottom of your roster fluid. Now, you can see here, Derrick Henry, I have 7 shares of. Those are all contending teams, whether I drafted him late in the startup because, Henry, the last couple of years, he's been going rounds, what, 6, 7, 8 startups because of where his value is. I mean, he increased in value this offseason so far. I mean, I don't know anybody that's trading him for anything less than a first. And that shows by the price there, 4,500. And then Sean Tucker, I still have a few shares of. That's probably a little overexposure. Calvin Ridley. Now my exposure percentage is a little higher because I do have, or a little lower than what I'm actually at in Dynasty, because I do have there's a few redraft leagues in here as well, saying that I have 24 total leagues. But yeah, then Calvin Ridley, another, wide receiver 3, basically 4, 5, 6 type guy that just, I know he's gonna play. I don't love the situation, but is there a potential Terry McLaurin type situation there? Possibly. I don't know that that's quite going to happen for Ridley, but I am pretty confident that he's going to be Cam Ward's top target. Okay. Then you've got Travis Kelce, another cheap win now piece. Brenton Strange, dude, I was able to pick up off of waivers in pretty much every league that I own him. Keenan Allen, I still sitting on 6 shares, just waiting for him to sign somewhere. Then I might unload a couple of them. I mean, the dude I can't even get a 4th for in some leagues, so why even trade him now? Just wait for him to sign somewhere. Lamar Jackson, 5 shares. A.J. Brown, 5 shares. Mike Evans, 5 shares. Let's scroll down. Then we go down to some of the guys I have 4. Well, there's more 5-share guys. Joe Flacco, I was able to pick up. There's some guys I drafted, Will Howard and Taj Brooks. So see, I was making a little more of an educated guess on Will Howard and Taj Brooks. Taj Brooks, I want to say in probably 3 of those leagues, I probably just picked him up for free after the draft. But that's because he has a really good shot to be the running back 2 in Cincinnati. And then, boom, one injury, one torn ACL by Chase Brown. And look, this guy's all of a sudden getting 20 touches on an awesome offense. So the possibility is there. That's all I'm saying. Like, yes, they brought Samaje Perine back, and they have Zach Moss still there, right? But Taj Brooks, I mean, this draft class was deep. Taj Brooks is a good running back, so I don't mind taking a shot on him for free. Kareem Hunt, you can see I have there. I probably picked him up off of waivers in a few leagues last year. Joe Flacco off of waivers. Ty Johnson, another decent spot starter. Not a bad best ball option. He gets into the passing game. Taysom Hill, he's banged up, but dude, for his price, Taysom Hill explodes in best ball leagues. And if you've got him on your team at all at tight end, like, sure, right now we're not sure how healthy he's going to be because of that torn ACL, but honestly, somebody that I don't mind having there. And if you've got him, you basically have to play him because you don't know when those explosions are going to come. Then you can see some guys I've got 4 shares of. Jalen Hurts, CeeDee Lamb, Ashton Genty, Drake London, Bo Nix, Devon Achane. Let's see what more rookies. Rashee Rice, I've got 4 bets on. Roma Dunze, McCaffrey. There's Jackson Dart. And again, Jackson Dart, someone who I'm willing to bet on, will be able to increase in value this year. Some people think he's not going to play much, but what is the point if the Giants are 1-3 or 0-4 in the month of September? Why not get the guy out there? I mean, Dable's going to have to get him out there if he wants to save his job and show that he's got something in Jackson Dart, right? And that's what's going to save his job ultimately. That's what's going to come down to. George Pickens there, now in Dallas. Chris Godwin, 4 shares of. Geno Smith. Then we've got Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams was going in the 4th round of some leagues early on in this draft cycle, but then he's moved up into the 3rd, sometimes even back end of the 2nd round. So most of the time I think one time I drafted him with like the 211 or 212. I know I got him in the 3rd round. I did make a trade including Kyle Williams where I got him. So Kyle Williams, not a bad bet there, I think. Again, so you can see which players I tended to favor to draft in certain pockets of the draft. If we were talking late 2nd, it was Bushul Tootin. If it was early 3rd, it was Kyle Williams. Middle 3rd, I was even drafting Will Howard there, middle 3rd. I got 4 shares of Devin Neal as well. So those were the players that I liked particular to make bets on. So this year I went a little more towards making bets on guys that I felt and had a little conviction on. Tay Felton there at 4. Tay Felton was a 3rd round pick. All it takes is a Jordan Addison injury, and Tay Felton could be the number 2 there in Minnesota. So if he's past Jalen Naylor, it's possible he's there. Zach Ertz, super cheap. Russell Wilson, cheap. Jarquez Hunter, cheap. So you can see all these little bets I've got on certain players in situations that I like, but this ultimately what it comes down to is diversification, right? And so this is how it helps you look for certain players to make trades with, right? If you've got, say, 7 leagues, but you've got 5 shares of Jamar Chase, okay, well, what happens when Jamar Chase goes down with a high ankle sprain and he's out for 4 weeks and it's getting into the playoffs? You're pretty much in like all of those leagues as one of your top players is down. That's going to be hard to win in the playoffs if that happens. If you own 5 shares of Jamar Chase in 7 leagues, I'd be shopping Chase right now, trying to get into some Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb. Start there, then you're really not losing much of production at all. Okay, you could look at Neighbors as well. So you see, I don't have much Malik Neighbors. I didn't have many picks in the top 5 of rookie drafts last season. This year I was able to tank properly in a couple of leagues, and I was able to get him. I also was able to flip Saquon for him. So this is where, like I showed you, I have 4 shares of Jamar Chase. This is where I could use one of those shares of Chase to go after a Malik Neighbors and hopefully get 1 or 2 more shares. I have 1 share, I know, of Neighbors, but that's it. So that's what I'd like to do, especially across the top end of players, because top end players, I'm talking 1st and 2nd round startup picks, those guys are very likely to produce for you, especially these 1st round guys. So you want to diversify across those guys. I have a few Josh Allen shares. I have a few Jalen Hurts shares, 4 or 5 Lamar Jackson shares. Jaden Daniels is someone that I don't own, so I would like to get into some Jaden Daniels possibly, right? So that's something that gives me something to look at, something to try and attack in some of my leagues and try and work out a trade and maybe gain some leverage through those deals elsewhere. So trade player, just because you want even players doesn't mean you have to do a deal that's just straight up 1 for 1. Like I have 5 Lamar Jackson shares. I don't have to just go out and be like, hey, I got Lamar Jackson, want to flip him for Jaden Daniels straight up. No, maybe that player has a backup player that I like, a backup running back that I like. Maybe he has a tight end that I can stack with my other quarterback on the team, right? So then you Or if not, maybe I have a player that I've been trying to get rid of. So I add him into the deal and I pick up a third rounder or second rounder or whatever on the backside of the deal to help insulate the value of my roster in that league. So that's about all I've got for today's episode of Roster Construction Part 1. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. Join, you get our rookie rankings. You can join the chat, get all of your questions answered. We're giving away free roster reviews right now for membership. So get in, get some help on your teams, and start winning now. And always remember, never stop working.